Good afternoon, everybody. I said, are there a lot of people in there? And they said, yeah, there's a lot. I expected about, I don't know, 10, maybe 5, 15. And as I look around the room, it's great to see so many people that I've had the opportunity to work with for nearly 20 years in some cases. This city's a lot different than it was 20 years ago. And there's a lot of great things that are happening. I often joke that I could leave this cell phone at my desk and go rent scooters down in Puerto Rico for the next 2 years, and this city's going to do great. And it is. There's no doubt about it. We're in a trajectory where we're just at the very beginning of seeing new development, seeing new investment happen. And it's going to be quite interesting over the next 5 years to see how this city changed. But for about 30% of the city, there's no ladder of opportunity to be a part of it. So as we start thinking about what the city will be, what we want it to become, we have to understand that we have to design into it opportunities for all to be a part of it. And that's what we're here today to discuss. How an innovation economy can be inclusive. How it doesn't redline any neighborhood or any person from being a part of what that change will be. And how Pittsburgh can become the global leader in designing and creating that type of an economy. That's what we all want to be a part of, right? Yes. This is Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. He would insist that we do that. And it took us a long time in the old economy to be able to get people to become a part of it. And through the mills and the mines, they worked and they fought and they became the middle class, and we created that. And now our job is to look back as we look forward and say, how do we use technology? How do we use innovation to recreate that, just like we did 100 years ago? And that's what we want to discuss and highlight today. The first steps of creating this roadmap, a roadmap that will be evolving, a roadmap that will change as technology changes, but one that isn't a handout, but a hand up, and pulls those that would have been left behind to be a part. So proud of this. You know, a year, 2 years ago, we started talking about creating a new department of innovation and performance. And on a separate track, we created a Bureau of Neighborhood Empowerment. One, to be able to harness all the great things that the people in this room are doing, and the other to address the inequity of the rest of this city. Today, those tracks merge, and they work with groups like the Urban Redevelopment Authority, and our universities, and our nonprofits in order to create a whole new power structure within this city. And none of that could be possible without the work of a visionary chief to lead innovation and performance, who also has the heart to understand that it has to be there for everyone. And I'm proud to introduce Deborah Lamb.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you all for coming. This is a very exciting time for us. We have a whole slew of things we want to share with you, and obviously this wouldn't have happened without all of you collectively. So I think we just want to start with a few words from some of our strong supporters from Council and obviously from the Bureau and URA, and then I'll introduce the roadmap, and then we're actually going to show you some of the things that we've been doing for the roadmap. So without further ado, Councilman Gilman.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mayor. It really is an exciting day to stand here. When I graduated from Carnegie Mellon 11 years ago, all my friends left. They left because they didn't see a path to economic opportunity, a path to innovation and entrepreneurship that they saw in other cities. But because of the people in this room, as I look out, from venture capitalists to accelerators to nonprofit leadership to community organizations to startup CEOs, we stand in a very different place. I had a major international global venture capital firm in town last week, and they were completely blown away by what was happening in this city. They could not believe that what was happening from corner to corner of Pittsburgh is exactly what they had dreamed about in other cities. And as the mayor said, today we take the step to make sure that it's not just about my district, which will see $1 billion of development in my first 4 years, but it's about every district of the city of Pittsburgh. It's about 90 neighborhoods where the definition of innovation and the definition of entrepreneurship is expanded to mean opening a small business, the roadmap to success through economic opportunity, whether it be in education, technical schools, or just going through life, learning the experiences of what it means to change your neighborhood. So I'm excited to see the path that this goes. I'm excited that today government joins the ranks of everybody in this room who for so many years have been creating this roadmap privately, and today government can play a key role in that as well. And to help us do that, we have an incredible Chief of Urban Affairs in the City of Pittsburgh, Valerie McDonald-Roberts, who I'm proud to introduce to talk about the impact this is going to have on our neighborhoods.
Didn't expect all that. Thank you, everyone, for coming. The one question I had when I walked in, I said, who is everybody here? What is the profile? Who are you? And it's a hodgepodge. And this is exactly, I think, what the mayor wanted. As he evolved as a city councilman in urban affairs within his council district, he had a vision to make sure that we address all people. And once he got to the position of mayor, he implemented it through the vision of the Bureau of Neighborhood Empowerment. I do want to acknowledge the staff members that are with the Bureau of Neighborhood Empowerment. Betty Cruz, Betty Cruz manages Welcoming Pittsburgh, Healthy Together, Live Well, Veterans Affairs and Engagement. She does a number of things, probably I'm missing some of them, but Welcoming Pittsburgh is a big one as we grow our city in our urban environment to include not just black, white, but we're including people who speak different languages, come from different countries. We're talking immigrants and non-U.S. foreign-born citizens. We also have Henry Pyatt. I saw Henry walk in. Henry is small business and neighborhood reinvestment or neighborhood redevelopment, and he's the person that you'll see walking the streets and talking to businesses and community members to find out what their needs are. This is the intersection we're talking about with this initiative. We also have LaTrinda Leonard. LaTrinda is taking over educational issues, youth, and My Brother's Keeper, a big initiative of the White House that the mayor has signed on to quite a while ago, and it has truly evolved and is going to be a major impact as we connect the dots. We also have Rick Williams, who is a new manager of Equity and Inclusion and deals with businesses, minority, women, and disadvantaged businesses to make sure that they have equal opportunities in the city of Pittsburgh and contractual opportunities, such as you can see, such is so much the intersection. I'm speaking on behalf of Kevin Acklin, who is the Chief of Staff and who is also Chief of Development for this city under Mayor Peduto. He's also the Chair of the Urban Redevelopment Authority. There's much that he would say. The one thing he would do is say a joke or make a funny, but I don't have any right now, okay? I'm tired. Another time, all right? But I'm sure that he would applaud the efforts that are being made within this administration. And he would applaud the efforts of the Urban Redevelopment Authority. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Rob Rubenstein. And who is that Steen or Stein? Did I get it right? Whatever. Rob Rubenstein, Executive Director.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the mayor for his leadership. I want to thank Director Lamb for her leadership on this initiative. Before I get into my remarks, though, I do want to acknowledge Jennifer Wilhelm. Jennifer, can you stand up, please? Jennifer has been instrumental from the URA standpoint, working with Deborah and her team and really helping to craft this roadmap. So, it's really some great work, and you're going to be hearing directly from her on one of the specific initiatives shortly, so I won't belabor that. Other URA staff in the room, Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Tom Link is back here. Darren Ellerby. Darren, you want to raise your hand too? Thank you. Communications Department, thank you. The small business is really, as we all know, and entrepreneurs are the cornerstone of the Pittsburgh economy, but also really the strength of our neighborhoods. And in some cases, the lack of strength in our neighborhoods, really pointing to where we don't have that entrepreneurship, that innovation occurring in our neighborhoods. And this roadmap is really going to set us forth on a path really to change that dynamic. The URA is really excited to be a key partner in this, a key component with our programs, our staff, and our resources in helping to implement and deliver on many of these initiatives that you're going to hear about. There are really three ways, if you categorize it, three ways that URA is going to be interfacing with the roadmap. First is really related to access to capital. We hear that time and time again in business startups and entrepreneurship. Access to capital, access to capital. It doesn't always mean providing direct capital, which we do. URA has a variety of loan programs, but also being a resource and helping guide people where to go, how you need to be prepared for when you are trying to access capital. So it's those loan programs, it's accessing a number of other tools that are out there, tax credits, for example, and with our entrepreneurs and our innovation ecosystem, there are a number of state tax credit programs that URA can be the liaison and help guide a business and an entrepreneur to those resources. The best example of how we can help bring resources together in one spot for entrepreneurs is launchpgh.com. Launchpgh.com. Many of you in this room who are involved in the entrepreneurship ecosystem are partners with us on that. That is the one-stop entry point for any entrepreneur, any investor seeking to know how to do business in Pittsburgh. That's launchpgh.com. So that's first, to really access the capital. Secondly is by supporting infrastructure and green building. So on the infrastructure space, virtually every business co-location venture in the city, small business incubator, accelerator, is potentially housed in a real estate project that URA was in some way an investor in that real estate project. Many of those enterprises, those co-location spaces, business incubators, are direct funding recipients from URA through one of our loan programs or other resources that we provide. So we are directly active in supporting that ecosystem, that infrastructure. The Uptown Eco-Innovation District, it's really the mayor is and his staff with Grant Irving, and I see all the folks here, great folks here from Uptown. That's really going to be an initiative that we're going to be actively involved with and be a key partner in that. And in encouraging businesses, contractors, and developers that when they're doing a project, to do it in the most sustainable way possible. So Mayor, I'm surprised you didn't touch on the P4, but the P4, the people, planet, place, and performance, those are really going to be the cornerstones of everything we do in our investment and our activities going forward. So really, when we're investing in a project, when we're working with developers, we're pushing the envelope on sustainability with those conversations, really as a string attached, if you will, for when you use public resources. The third way that we're supporting this initiative of the roadmap is through really supporting the ecosystem of technology and innovators. Steel City Code Fest, we have been a major sponsor of that initiative since it started, and it's really grown and doing some great things. You're going to hear a little bit more about that. We support expansion of local resources and capital through community development and investment funds, institutions like Bridgeway Capital, Northside Community Development Fund, really helping to grow the number of resources available for capital in the city of Pittsburgh and in the region. And we partner and support organizations throughout the city, so small business development centers at the University of Pittsburgh and Duquesne University, I see Bill, my friend Bill, sitting right here, Urban Innovation 21. URA was a founding partner of that organization. We continue to be a funder. Tom Link has been an active board member, sits on committees as well. So continuing the support of partners who are working on the boots on the ground, working in the neighborhoods. The Riverside Center for Innovation, organizations are working with small entrepreneurs in the neighborhood. And finally, you've heard about it earlier, but it's worth repeating. There are flyers out there, really almost a monthly resource centers for small businesses. Next one is September 23rd. At the City County Building on the 6th floor from 4 to 6 p.m. This is really done in partnership with the City of Pittsburgh and the URA, and we really, it's an open forum of resources and the people there that can answer your questions for entrepreneurs on a whole range of issues. So really sponsoring these, getting these messages out into the neighborhoods. These small business resource fairs with URA staff and with Henry Pyatt are happening in neighborhoods throughout the City of Pittsburgh on a regular basis. So thank you all as the entrepreneurs and the folks working in this ecosystem, and we look forward to doing great things. Thank you.
All right, so what exactly is the roadmap for inclusive innovation? I'm just going to give you a very high-level overview in terms of what we've done for the past year, but then we're really going to show you some of the projects that we've already been doing regardless of the launch, and that's what makes it so exciting. You've just heard from 4 brilliant speakers about, how we've all been actually just working together without, a formal structure or a mandate in place per se. We've just naturally, because of mutual interests, a common vision set by the mayor, have really just been doing this. But behind all this is actually a strategic plan and a framework that I'd just like to talk a little bit more about. So the first part of this is, as you heard from the mayor, the Department of Innovation and Performance, and my role is a new role. It was established when Mayor Peduto came on board early last year in January. And I think what's the main thing around innovation is that even though I have it in my title, I don't own it. I don't possess it. It's something that all of you actually have been doing for quite a while, and it's very easy for someone in my position to get promised a silver bullet solution. If you buy this technology, it will solve all your problems. Or if you listen to this service or this process, it will break all the challenges that you have. And that's not necessarily the case. I think innovation is a process, not an end state, and it's something that's collectively owned. So what we were very cognizant of from the very beginning was that we needed a strategic plan, something to really guide what innovation was for the city, that would be driven by city leadership, but something that would be owned by all of us, both in terms of being part of the process, and therefore we were part of the outcome, but really collectively mandated by all of us in terms of that strategic framework. So the thing is, we really wanted to think of innovation differently from the rest of the cities. We're not the first city to have innovation, nor will we be the last, but we can say based on our research, we're definitely one of the forefront cities that are actually talking about inclusive innovation. Some of the world's most innovative cities in the world, and we've definitely researched and done our homework, are actually some of the world's most exclusive. And this is something that, the mayor was very cognizant of in terms of trying to change the dialogue, trying to change the discussion. How can we move forward on innovation collectively? How can we ensure that innovation is not only given to those that have the resources or the network or just the knowledge? How can we make sure innovation is part of the greater community? And this is where the work with URA and BNE really comes together in terms of that synergy. I don't really like the definitions, but I think it's really important for us to look at, what we think of the vision of inclusive innovation. And this is the definition that we set out. providing equitable access to the products and services by leveraging new technologies, ideas, personnel, inventions to meet complex challenges and higher standards. We're setting a higher standard. We realize that there's a lot of very complex urban challenges that we face today that are very different than what we faced 5, 10 years ago, and we need to set up a different framework in order to do that, and we collectively have ownership in that. So, we went through a very extensive analysis. We looked internally, looked at ourselves, where our strengths are, where our weaknesses are, and then we also looked throughout asking you. Many of you were part of our first series of innovation roundtables. Thank you very much. And that was a really important starting point. In addition to our own internal analysis, we asked you 2 main questions. 1, how can we take Pittsburgh to the next level for innovation? And 2, how can we make it more inclusive? What can we do to do that? And all of you provided a wealth of information and a really, really sincere effort to be part of the solution instead of just waiting in the challenges. And even if you weren't able to come to the roundtables, we made it available to the public so that even that you can see the summary reports, you can actually view it on our YouTube channel, and you can go through our live Twitter feeds that were being discussed at that time. So that was a really first step in terms of driving this kind of roundtable discussion. We also went through 2 extensive public surveys, asking the community the same thing. What can we do? What are your ideas? Give us your best ideas to really drive home a wide breadth of different responses and comments. And we looked to our neighbors, our counterparts. We looked at over almost 50 cities from all over the world, and in the US, over 80 different best practices, not only in terms of the outcome of like this is innovative or this is inclusive, but also in terms of the process. What made the process a success? How did we actually engage the community in this? And we learned a lot in that. And that's why we want to showcase this as well, because just as we learned a lot from our counterparts all over the world and nationally, we want to be able to share and show them, best practices, but also things that didn't work. Those examples are really important for us in order to share those outcomes. After this very, very long list of, internal, external analysis, we went through ultimately our criteria again. How do we prioritize? How do we hone in? How do we make sure we follow the mayor's vision of inclusive innovation? And through these 6 categories, we really thought, is this innovative? Is this inclusive? Is this something the city can do? Are there partnerships that already are in place, or do we have to find new partners? Is this affordable? How fast can we do this? And we really, with that kind of context, honed in on our priority items to a point where we ultimately have six areas. And this is what makes it really powerful in terms of its comprehensiveness. It ranges from really thinking about the digital divide and thinking about digital infrastructure as much an important feature of our city as running water and electricity, ensuring that the city can really provide that infrastructure to improve the quality of life for its citizens. Thinking about how best to engage citizen-city engagement. How do we make it meaningful? How do we ensure that residents of all demographics and stripes can feed back, can give and support to the community, and can really initiate change and can be change makers in their own right? How can we really have open data that's not just open data for open data's sake, but the application of open data? This morning we launched our advisory board on open data, and there was a lot of really good discussion, not just in terms of engaging the application experts and developers, but really thinking about how we can use the data to really drive community decision making. How can we support the community in terms of better experiences, better information? And then thinking about internal capacity. How can we develop our city workforce, ensuring that they have the resources and training to make sure that they can provide services to our city residents to meet the 21st century? And finally, how can we think about small business? And how can we ensure that we're not just focused on the tech entrepreneurs and startups, though those are very important aspects, but when we're thinking about economic development and economic growth, that we're thinking about the whole community. And then clean tech. Building on our strong industrial manufacturing past, but really thinking about how best to drive it into the 21st century to really diversify our economy and make it resilient. So with those 6 focus areas, we ultimately came up with 100+ actions. And this is what makes it a really exciting living document. The vision of inclusive innovation doesn't change. The 6 focus areas don't really change because that's going to be a process. But the actions will. Actions that will be projects that will finish, that will evolve, that will change over time. And this is what really makes it that community effort. We're here to show you just a little bit of some of the actions that we're already doing. But ultimately, I would define our actions into 3 categories. Actions that we're just already doing, and you'll see 4 of them today. Actions that we haven't quite started yet, but are looking for partnerships and really fine-tuning it. And probably actions that we haven't even thought of that will be coming from you as we continue to evolve. And each one of these actions, we're committed to tracking and measuring and progressing. That's a very important stage of this process because we don't know if we're making progress if we can't track and we can't know, and if we don't know whether this action is actually going forward into inclusive innovation. So those 100 actions, you'll see one with the website and going into detail, but I would imagine there's many more as we go forward. So with that, I don't want to delve too much, but I want to really be able to have our partners showcase the actions. But I really want to thank everyone for coming because this wouldn't have happened without all of you collectively giving your input, without the people here, and obviously without Jennifer and her leadership and everyone here on this team. This innovation roadmap was driven by millennials. I think that's an important note to have is that a lot of other cities might have hired consultants and other external experts. We really, this was homegrown. We really drove this internally within our department through all of you, through the mayor's leadership, and that's what makes it so exciting because we can do this ourselves and we collectively can really take this to the next level. So, Jennifer?
So now we're going to have a few of the projects that are already starting underneath the Innovation Roadmap. I'm pleased to introduce our first speakers, which is a program for connecting urban entrepreneurs. If Rebecca Harris, Bill Jennerette, and Mike Capinson-Bellis can come up and you'd like to speak about that program.
Mayor Peduto and distinguished guests, thank you so much for inviting us here today to present our new exciting program, Q. So very briefly, we'll present our program focusing upon 3 specific areas: the demand for the program, the specific program concepts and components, and the future plans. So I'm going to discuss the demand. During the past year, a number of organizations with missions dedicated to the expansion of entrepreneurship in conjunction with urban renewal, revitalization, and growth have been meeting to determine the most effective and direct method to help Pittsburgh's urban entrepreneurs create viable businesses positioned for long-term growth. These organizations include the Carnegie Library, the City of Pittsburgh, Google, the Center for Women's Entrepreneurship at Chatham University, Urban Innovation 21, Bridgeway Capital, Davis Consulting Solutions, and many more. And based in part upon the extensive roundtables that the mayor and Deborah Lamb held last summer, addressing the multiple yet varied needs of our area entrepreneurs, one of the most critical factors facing many of our city's urban entrepreneurs, the ones who operate barbershops and small markets and laundromats and local printing shops, just to name a few, is that they are not part of the digital economy. And in many cases, these business owners, while currently operating successful businesses in our city, they really are not part of the growing digital economy, where having a virtual reality is really a necessity. It's not an option. And that's whether you run a brick and mortar store or you sell your products online. And the success of communities like Lorimer and Homewood and Hazelwood and the Hill District need viable on-the-ground businesses which create natural meeting places and economic stability and then really important neighborhoods. So we had to come up with a solution. And these are the primary reasons that we developed the Q Digital program, which wouldn't have been possible without the insightful leadership from Deborah Lamb and her office, and really from the contributions from Urban Innovation 21 and Google, and the valuable hosting and support from our colleagues here at the Carnegie Libraries of Pittsburgh. We held the classes here. So Mike Kepson-Bellis from Google will talk to you really about how we did this pilot program, and then Bill Generette from Urban Innovation 21 will provide next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I want to start by saying, first of all, Google loves working in Pittsburgh. I hear this all the time from some of our national, like the head of our community affairs group and head of our K-12 committee. And I think a lot of it has to do with what we're seeing here. It's how connected we really are, how much cooperation we have as a city and as a region. It's not common. This isn't happening in other cities where communities are really working together to solve things the way Pittsburgh does. This program was all about that. It was all about connectivity. And so we had a cohort of 11 entrepreneurs from some of the neighborhoods Rebecca mentioned, from Garfield and Homewood and Larimer, meet here once a week for 12 weeks to build their websites, but not just to build their websites, to learn how to build the online presence that makes the most sense for them. And ultimately what we're trying to do is help them reach their customers, connect with their customers, help them get their message out there the way all the tech startups are doing so well at. We wanted to make sure some of the brick and mortar businesses, as Rebecca said, some of the businesses that have been around for a while also had shining online presences. But finally, there's a connection that we also wanted to establish among the entrepreneurs. We wanted to get them together in a room. We wanted to get them together with the instructors and with the mentors that we had throughout the program so that we can foster more of a network, more of a community, make sure that, when we go to the next big business event, it's not the same people that have always been there, but it's everybody. It's everybody in the neighborhoods that we're operating in, but eventually across the city. And to talk a little more about the future plans for Q, I want to introduce one of our favorite partners at Google, Bill Generette from Urban Innovation 21.
First of all, I just want to thank my staff, my board members. See several staff members here and several board members here, so thank you. But most importantly, I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank Deb. This is an historic day. I've been fortunate enough to be able to travel around the country, and Pittsburgh is really one of the only cities that's doing an inclusive innovation roadmap. And what this means for programs like Q, for other great programs that are happening throughout the ecosystem, is really the ability to scale. Q was great. It impacted 11 entrepreneurs. But now that we have policy in place that really drives inclusion into the ecosystem, there's the potential for a program like Q to be in 10, 15, 20 different neighborhoods. And that's really the goal. And so I just really want to thank you all. I want to thank your staff, because really done something historic here today. So thank you.
Our next project is Beacon, being presented by our Code for America Fellows, Patrick Hammonds and Shelley Nee.
Thanks, Jennifer, and thank you all for having us be part of the exciting conversation today. So as some of you know, Code for America is a nonprofit that's based in San Francisco, California. And Code for America works with local governments, cities, and counties to improve public services, the digital aspect of them, making them more friendly to the people that use them or the staff that implement them, and more open to anyone who's interested in them. In Pittsburgh, Patrick and I and our teammate Ben, who I want to give a shout out to, he's not here with us right now, but he's been a super key role on this project. In Pittsburgh, we've been working all year on procurement. Procurement is the process by which the city buys anything it needs to run, from fire trucks to paper clips to emergency equipment, everything. And as Jennifer mentioned, we've been working on a tool called Beacon. And the story of Beacon starts on the very first day of our fellowship in Pittsburgh, where we were asked by Henry Pyatt and Jennifer to help out with the Small Business Resource Fair. And we met so many local business people who had traveled all the way downtown to answer some questions. And these questions were pretty basic. They were like, what are the requirements for becoming a vendor for the city of Pittsburgh? And where are the opportunities? How do we apply for them? And we were just struck by how far they had traveled on a weeknight to get answers to these questions. We realized that it was hard to find these answers because they were scattered on websites all over the internet, or they were hard to access because you had to pay a third-party service to learn more about upcoming opportunities, or go through a really long sign-up process. Really, to sum it up, there was no simple, accessible online resource that contained information about what are the opportunities that a business could apply for and get work from the city of Pittsburgh, and what the requirements were for applying to them. So over the last year, Patrick, Ben, and I have put together Beacon, and Patrick is going to tell you guys more about it.
Thanks, Shelley. So that story that Shelley just told, to us, it signifies a huge communications gap between city departments and business community. City departments need something, and they're not actually able to get out that word to people that actually provide it. Early on, when we were here, back in April, we talked to City Parks about a cleaning contract that was coming up. They'd been trying to get their facilities cleaned, getting companies to respond to RFPs to come clean their facilities. And they sent it out 2 or 3 times, and each time they received 1 or 2 responses back. That's not really a big enough of a pool to make a good choice from. So you have departments not being able to receive good services, and businesses missing out on an opportunity to actually provide those services. So we did a quick pilot that month, and we were able to see 16 responses in a month, compared to 2. So with that, we went forward with launching Beacon. One of the things that we see that this communications gap affects all Pittsburgh citizens, even if you don't think about it. EMS, emergency services, needs medical equipment, and if a business that actually has those goods doesn't know that the window to apply and window to bid is closing, then they're not going to be able to actually provide those things. So it's harder for departments to get what they need to provide good service to their citizens. And so we're launching today Beacon, which is behind me. It's been in a GIF doing stuff. This is that service. So you can go to Beacon right now, see current opportunities that are available to bid. One of them is really interesting, is the feasibility study for municipal ID. So let's say you run a consulting company and you want to respond to that. You can go there right now, get all the information you need, see who you can contact if you have questions. But more than that, Beacon actually provides a way to receive tailored notifications based on the services and goods your business provides. So you can go there, sign up, just give your email, say what you provide, and when opportunities come, you'll get it pinged in your email box. So we want to encourage you to go to buildpgh.com/beacon, sign up right now, and thank you so much.
Our next project is Metro 21, being presented by Rick Stafford.
It's a little daunting to represent an entire university, but that's what I'm here for. But I want to begin by saying our biggest contribution can be talent. And for those of you who don't know, Jen is a graduate and actually took my seminar, and despite that, she's successful, okay? So, but CMU as an urban university, I think we all in this room sort of recognize we're here. And Councilman Peduto recognized we were here a long time ago because we are in his district. So it was a pretty natural thing that when he became mayor, he also inspired this long-time relationship he had with CMU to really step forward and create what I'll call a connector with the city. And that's really what Metro 21 is. I'm the Metro 21 representative, but there are tens of projects now going on. Really as a result of Mayor Peduto's inspiration in saying, I want to be an innovative city, an inclusive city, and we need people who are going to help on that. So that's what we're dedicated to through Metro 21. It's not the only way you can reach our university, but it's a good gateway. And I remember being asked to do this in June of 2014, and I actually met Deborah on June 27th, 2014, 4 days before we began Metro 21, and I've been taking direction from her ever since. It was actually Deborah's prompting that we create a memo of understanding. By the way, you can find it on our website, which was also Deborah's prompting. So she said, you got to have a website for Metro 21. So you can find that MOU on our website. And basically, it says that we will partner with the city to identify projects that will further the innovation roadmap. Is that a fair way to summarize it? And we've been doing that ever since. We actually raised some seed money. One thing I said to Deborah from the beginning is I said, well, we're here to ask for your problems, not your money. And she said, that's a very good thing because you won't get our money. But we got a lot of problems. And some examples of that are reflected in the over 20 projects that we have going right now, and this is just the beginning. But for example, and Jen said use an example, so I'll pick on EDIGS, which is a joint project with the city undertaking, looking at how can the renter market express itself to all other potential renters about the conditions and terms that they're finding in their rental housing. And as Dan knows, this is a big issue, not just with students, but we're focused on the North Side neighborhood, where 50% of the folks that reside north of that Allegheny and Ohio River rent. So the idea is to create an app that that information can be shared with the hope that that will improve our marketplace in the city for rental housing by sharing information that you won't get on Craigslist, because Craigslist is the story about what the landlord wants to tell you. And I think another example, and Jen, you said one example. Can I give two or three? Another important example is, and Lee Haller's watching this one on a daily basis, is the installation of cameras in vehicles in the city to actually be able to detect potholes and cracks in pavement and so on, to inform our public works folks about the condition of the pavement citywide. Now, why is that inclusive? Well, I think we all understand that if you're only going to operate on who gets the calls and who has the influence in terms of directing your maintenance schedule, you may leave some neighborhoods out. So I think this is an important contribution of technology can make that has a lot to do with inclusion. There's a lot of other projects. Again, I'll commend you to the website, and I'll just end by saying, the idea of Metro 21 is really caught on in Carnegie Mellon. We're deep into this, we're committed to it, and there's going to be a lot more projects down the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And I will just say, if anyone has an opportunity to take a class from this man, he's very good. Highly recommend everything he has to teach. So next up is a project that is near and dear to my heart, and I want to invite a couple of my cohorts up, Brady Hunsaker, Toby Greenwald, to come and help me talk about the Steel City Code Fest. This is really an event that has two main components. So at its heart, the Steel City Code Fest brings together coders, designers, and other technologists to build software applications to help solve challenges of nonprofits and local residents. So it is an event. People get together, they form teams, and it's a fun competition. But what makes it more than an event, and what we really pride ourselves on, is the fact that we want to see these apps get completed and get used. So over the last 2 years, with the help of the Forbes Funds and the B&Y Mellon Foundation of Southwestern Pennsylvania, 6 applications were completed and are in use. One which I'll mention, because I think it's good for any resident of the city, is pgh.st. It's a website where you can sign up to get weekly reminders for your recycling, your trash, your bulk pickup. Some of you may know the pain of not remembering which weekend or which week is your recycling week. So it will remind you, and I get it every week. The other component of the event that we're really expanding on this year, our next event, by the way, will be April 9th, 2016, is that we want to also promote coding education for all. We're going to be doing a citywide campaign with the help of the mayor and his staff to bring together all youth in the city that want to participate to learn about coding, coding education, and opportunities that exist right here to further their skills. We're very excited about this partnership because it's going to be with the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. One of the great things about the Code Fest is our partners. The Urban Redevelopment Authority is very proud to be a founding member of this event, but we also have another founding member in Google. Brady Hunsaker is going to take a few minutes and speak about that.
Thanks, Jennifer. Google is very proud to be one of the founding and continuing sponsors of the Steel City Code Fest. We're now preparing for our 4th year of the event, and I remember 4 years ago when we were just starting meeting, and it was all just an idea, and it's amazing to see how it's improved over the years and grown. And I think that success and evolution, continuing a theme here, is really due to the great collaboration with other groups. And some of them are here right now, but then there's other groups, as Jennifer was mentioning, the Forbes Funds, and also UXR at the University of Pittsburgh, and others that you can see on our website. And I think working all together is what makes it better than any of us could have done on our own. The Code Fest serves or addresses a number of the priorities that Google has in doing our community outreach, and so it's great in that it does more than one. One is that it promotes the tech community, but the really important part is that it also aids local nonprofits and their constituents. So it's helping connect more people to some of the benefits that creative technological solutions can offer. But third, it offers an additional education about computer science. Some of that is in the form of participants who themselves are students at the time, but also, as Jennifer mentioned, at the most recent event, and as we plan for the future, some coordinated additional outreach at along with the event toward younger students. Over the past 3.5 years, it's really grown and changed and evolved, and I think that also reflects part of Google's approach to solving problems. We don't expect that we're going to get everything perfect the first time. We don't expect that one solution will be the right solution for all time. And I think we're really seeing as we work on the Code Fest each year how by bringing in new partners and by thinking creatively about how things have changed and how things can work better, it's gotten better each year. So we're very happy to continue supporting it. And now we'll hear from Toby Greenwald.
Thanks, Brady. Thanks, Jennifer. And thank you, Mayor Peduto and Deborah. And frankly, thank all of you who see the library as a place that can reach beyond the traditional ideas of what a library can do. We signed on with the Code Fest team last year for the Code Fest that happened earlier this year. And we're really excited to continue to be a part of it going on into next year. Because Codian data, this idea of Codian data driving more and more community decisions, this is becoming almost a new literacy unto itself. And literacy being a core part of the library's mission, we feel a strong responsibility to do all we can to help raise the skill levels across the board here in the city. We've been offering projects like STEM education, our all hands on tech program for children, programs for teens, the labs programming, as well as tech classes and networking opportunities for small businesses and entrepreneurs. So throughout all of this, we're really doing what we can to be a hub on this innovation ecosystem and to be a really essential waypoint on the innovation roadmap. So we're really excited to be a part of it, and we can't wait to see what we're able to do next. Thank you.
So before we wrap up and the mayor says some closing words, I just have some final thanks to folks. Again, this has been very much walking the talk, a very inclusive process. It couldn't have been done without a team of people really helping, from Jen and Lana and John and Katie and Jeff, who's been here since the beginning, since last summer as an intern, and Laura and Grant. This is very much something that I think we really need a round of applause for these people, because they've done a lot of work. So, we'll definitely stick around for questions, and if you have ideas, please come see us, because we're really open and willing to talk more about this. And this isn't perfect. This is very much a living document, but we really hope that we can evolve and make it better together. So thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. So first off, again, to the people in the room, thank you. I think Councilman Gilman said it best. You've been doing this for years. Government's finally caught up with you. And we have talented people within City Hall now that you're able to communicate to, and you don't have to try and say, boy, I wish there was somebody I could work with, because there's people there that are on that same scale. And that's a nice thing to have. A lot of these people have taken great pay cuts in order to do it, because they believe in Pittsburgh and they believe that we have the potential to become a global leader. You design the cities you get. And if you design it with willingness and understanding and a commitment to make it inclusive, you end up with an inclusive city. And so as we look at where innovation will take us and where the economics is being driven, we work together as a team, everyone in this room, of making sure that nobody's excluded. Whether it's 24 projects, 24, Rick, is by the way the number, that we're working with right now with Carnegie Mellon University, or it's being able to create Q so that a barbershop in Homewood or a caterer in the Hill has the access to have an internet presence that they may not have had before. Whether it's working with CodeFest to solve problems that, frankly, city government may not have the capacity or the creativity to look at, whether it's the ability to look at almost any of these programs and use Beacon as an opportunity where there is no wall anymore between the people that can provide service in city government, and contracts aren't awarded by who can raise the most money, but by who can provide the best service. We break down those barriers, and we create a city that's inclusive. We provide opportunity for people to be a part of a new economy, and we take the lead in a global challenge to become that city that everyone wants to live in. So for the years that you've done it, thank you. You now have a city government that will be a partner with you.